Hello everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. The inspiration for today's video comes from a viewer who sent me a picture of a woman sitting on a train. I think it was in Italy, I'm not too sure, I can't remember where she said she was, but she took a picture of this woman sitting on a train because she loved her jacket. And so she sent me a picture and I loved it too. Like, it's beautiful and it's the perfect upcycling project. So of course I had to go hunting for the raw materials to make that jacket. So I went thrifting looking for an olive kind of army jacket looking kind of thing, and I found this one. I think it's pretty perfect. I think it's going to be so much fun to really decorate this up and have fun with that. The only kind of odd thing about this jacket, and I didn't even see it until I was literally paying for the jacket, is the back. So this one, I don't know how I keep finding these jackets with funny things on the back. This one is actually nice. Treat people with kindness. I think that's a very nice message. And I was tempted to leave that because of course I believe in treating people with kindness. I don't really think I'm feeling the vibe of having like written messages on my clothes. So that might have to go. But I had to, of course, go thrifting for more pieces to sort of play around on this. I love the orangey colors that have been worked into the sleeves of the woman on the train. And I love that the sleeves look sweatery. So I kind of was shopping around for like a men's sweater that I could use. And I honestly had no luck until I went to my friends at Upcycle, and they sell these little bundles of scrap together. So this little bundle of scrap has kind of nice colors, but it was this piece that drew me, this like super fuzzy piece. It's not very big. I don't know what the heck it would be from. It's just little like that. But I think I can get sort of that sweatery feel to the sleeves. And I did find one sweater, but it's quite thin, but it's kind of beautiful, right? Like that butterfly is nice. It's got good colors front and back. That's part of what I'll be playing with. But then I also wanted some of the sparkly, sequiny things. In my own stash, I remembered I had this whole roll. Like, that's beautiful. That's so fun, right? And then this has the orangey colors and some beautiful embroidered work on that. I could just use those sleeves. I don't know. And a table runner with more of those shiny, like this looks to me very South Asian. I think adding bits like that onto the jacket could be really, really beautiful. And then while I was kind of in the South Asian theme, I found this dress with this kind of shawl piece with all of that beautiful work on it. So this dress isn't really finished. Like, I don't really feel bad about cutting this up because it wasn't complete and, you know, it wasn't going to get used as it is. But it is really beautiful. Like, I'll keep this whole part for a different project. But for this jacket, I think I'll be using some of that sparkly stuff. So it's playtime. So I'm just going to be playing around, seeing what I can add, seeing how I can kind of get that same vibe of the woman on the train. I really love that inspiration. I'm going to see what I can do. So if that sounds good to you, let's get busy.
Okay, so here's the back of the jacket. That is a nice message, but it just doesn't feel very current. It feels a little outdated to have that printed on the back of my jacket. This sweater, I think, is really pretty on there. I really love it. Oh, you know what? This has little bits of gold in it, right? And the lady on the train had lots of like sweatery things and sparkly things. And I think that's what made hers really gorgeous. So I do want to add a bit more of the sparkle. So the butterfly is going to go on the back with more sparkle, but then she had sweatery sleeves, and I like the idea of adding some of the sweater to the sleeves. I think I still want to keep the cuff and collar. I think I want to just keep that in the olive because I still want it to look like an army jacket. I don't want to cover the whole thing, right? So if I take some of this for each sleeve and kind of maybe just put a panel like that, I think that could work really nice. Now I also have this crazy knit. This side might be a little too crazy, but on this side, the colors actually go really well. So I was wondering if I could put a little piece of this on each sleeve as well. I think that's pretty fun. That's pretty cute. This is the one that's probably the most controversial, where I'll get comments saying, oh, Catherine, that was a step too far. But I quite like it. There's also this piece of knit, which again, the colors are pretty good. I'll save that and see if I want to use it maybe on the front somewhere. There's also that piece of knit, which again, colors, not bad. We'll save it. So if this kind of just forms a rectangle on the back, oh yeah, there's just a seam there. So I can easily take off this black there. Then what about this? It kind of is almost ready-made to go around that whole bottom edge, but I just don't feel like I want to cover that. I want to keep that. So maybe just a strip of this across the yoke. Or I have this whole table runner, and some of these pieces have colors that blend really nicely. I could put a whole strip of that across the yoke. Ooh, I do like that. When I'm playing around like this, I try to just set it up so that it approximates the finished product as much as possible, just to help visualize. And then my last item that I can work in if I want to, you remember this one? I could take that little gold strip and put on each side of the butterfly because I've got two ends of that. So at some point, it's, I'll be getting carried away and it'll be too much. But I think a good place to start is here. And then just keep adding as I please. So the approximate width I want then is 11 inches, maybe 12, and the length exactly 18. Good, 18 by 12. So if I have the middle of the butterfly in the middle of my piece, right about here, seems to be good. And then all the way down. And this is just my little scrap of soap. Sometimes people ask me what kind of soap I use, and I think really any white soap will do, but it's just so handy. It works so well and it smells nice. And I got that idea from a viewer whose name I wish I could recall because it was such a good tip. I appreciate that one so much. This is a really nice piece of black. This is me being silly, but I think I want to keep it because I'll keep the black sleeves and this little bit of trim. That might just come in really handy on another project. So instead of cutting it off, I think I will carefully remove those stitches. By pulling threads like this, I'm sure that I'm not going to be putting any holes in the fabric. And then there's a little serge line to take off. Black on black is not that easy to show you, but when you're trying to remove serging, you just have to pull out the two needle threads. And then the rest just comes apart. And I could absolutely just cut this off. I would only be losing not even a 1/4 inch of fabric, but the upcycler in me just doesn't want to waste that little bit. Okay. So the front of the sweater is going to go on the back of the jacket, and then I've got the back of the sweater to maybe go on the sleeves. Because this is a knit and I'm sewing it onto a woven fabric on the back of the jacket, it's hard to sew something stretchy onto something that's not stretchy. So I'm going to interface this piece. I love that. I'm just going to iron that on and we'll come right back. Okay, that is all interfaced, so it's nice and stable now. I'll be able to sew that onto the back with no problem. While my iron is hot, I'm going to just press out these creases and I'm going to place a crease right in the center of the back. So with it folded in half, just as perfectly as I could get it, I just pressed that crease in there. So that marks my center for me. I just folded the butterfly in half as well, so I can just line up those two folds, and then I feel pretty centered. So now I really have to decide, do I do the gold or don't I? It seems like it's just there waiting for me, right? It's like the right length. It's just too good to pass up. Okay, so that means, however, that I either need to remove those stitches or just cut off the knitting. And then, yeah, I think I'll just do that. Let's make life a little easier. I think I'll be able to cut it right along there. Yeah, I can cut it sort of like holding my scissors at an angle. I can cut right down beside the stitching so that the white is not going to show. Right, I mean, it was like meant to be. So that cleans up the two sides. Now, what about the bottom? Do I want gold here as well? I don't have any more of this skinny gold. I have only one cuff. There was only one sleeve with this, which is why I guess somebody got rid of it. They lost a sleeve and couldn't finish it. Not bad. Oh, yeah, I could take skinny gold from there. Yes, right? Okay. Before I cut that off, do I want more than the skinny gold? Like maybe just this much? Oh, I kind of think so. Cutting off a little extra. Just too many times I've been skimpy and then just kicked myself later. So just cut off a little extra. And then right in here, what do I want to do? Okay, this has a raw edge that wants to stick up. I'll have to deal with that. Other than that little issue, I think so, right? I think it's just too pretty for words. Here we go. Okay, so that's a go. And then what do I do at the top of this rectangle? I think of all these different pieces. Some of them, oh yeah, like this one probably goes better than the rest. So I think I'm going to unfortunately destroy or at least drastically shorten this table runner because I want this piece right here. I've been looking more in the housewares and blankets and this kind of thing because there are some interesting fabrics in there. So this table runner was just a few dollars. It was very cheap compared to buying a whole garment with this kind of work on it. Just buying this table runner was way cheaper. Okay, I might need to just be a little bit more patient. I might need to go and sit down with a cup of tea and just remove this section, and I'll be right back. That didn't take too long. And look how nice that looks. I love that. I think I've got enough going on here that I can start sewing. That's going to be across the top. Butterfly obviously has to go on first, then the two sides, and then I got to figure this out. So I've got this funny frayed edge going under, pinning that to the butterfly piece, and I'm just having it so that this bottom edge is lined up with my bottom edge here, and then I'll trim away the extra of the butterfly piece. I think that makes sense if I sew there and then trim. I think so. Okay. Finally, let's go to the machine. So I put in a thread that blends in well with the gold. And I'm just using a regular stitch, regular needle, regular everything. Oh, that's pretty good. I spent a few minutes just getting this centered onto the back. The only place that had to land exactly where it needed to be is this bottom edge. I just wanted the gold to be right in line with this bottom band, and then the rest just kind of flowed, and I just made sure it was centered. So now we can go back to the machine, and I just want to keep that gold butted right up against the bottom band. I'm very glad I interfaced this piece because even so, I'm still having to make sure that the knit doesn't stretch and bubble. But it would have been 10 times worse if I hadn't put that interfacing. Man, up here I think I'll just approximate and sew where I feel that bottom edge of the yoke. I'm just kind of tucking in little tiny bits of the knit just so it doesn't start kind of piling up, if you know what I mean. Good news, I am loving this. And I think I'll do a line right across here too, just to keep this part all flat and stable. The gold strips are going on, and at the bottom here, I'll just need to fold under an edge and get that nice like that. Oh, maybe I don't have to fold under an edge because it is already nicely tucked in. All right, that's good. I'm going to point my pins to the bottom. I just like having my pins pointing where I'm going to be starting. It just makes it so much easier. Okay, and same here, a nicely folded edge. Okay. Right? I just love it. Okay. I think we're on the right track here. Okay. Oh, yes. So now this bit across the yoke, I haven't really fully figured that out yet, right? Because it's smaller than the yoke. Is it going to look funny if it just sort of partially covers the yoke? I don't think it looks funny. I think so far so good. Because the rest, look how beautiful this all looks. I'm just crazy about it all. I love it. Like, this looks like it was just meant to be. And I'm trying to line up this edge just by feel. I can't see this edge anymore over here, but I can feel it. So I'm just going to pin this along here. And I need to make sure I've got seam allowance here. That'll have to do. I'm just gonna pop it on and make sure I like this piece there before I fuss around too much with these armhole edges. Okay, nope. I didn't really like the way this looked. It looked either too much or not enough. Like I either have to fill in the whole yoke or reduce this. I think I'm gonna reduce this. So I'm gonna cut seam allowance away from that gold strip. And then that edge can just turn under. That'll be pretty. This fabric, it kind of even just finger presses. So that's kind of handy. Okay, whew, I think I love that. So I want to make sure I get good looking corners with everything tucked in or out of the way. And if I keep a bit of tension, it'll help this little strip of fabric go straight. So when I put tension on fabric like that, I'm not pulling it through the machine. I'm just holding it in that taut position as it goes through. Just as I'm finishing this, I'm having a thought that maybe I should have had that sweatery fuzzy knit on the yoke and then this over the edge of that. Oh, I might end up taking out the stitching I'm putting in right now. Let's think about that idea of the sweater knit here. But that looks good, right? Or darn it, I was sort of hoping I wouldn't like this on the yoke because I just saw that. But you know what? It's not quite wide enough, so it's not perfect. But I do like it. I like it a lot more than I expected. Before I pause for lunch, I just turned this sideways and it covers more than half of the yoke. So this side is crazy, right? But I think this side, the colors just blend nice. And I like having the fuzzy stuff on the yoke. I think it's working. I know it's crazy. A lot of people won't like this, but bear with me. I think I am safe because it really is covering that whole yoke. If I cut here, place the other piece here, this is like a finished edge. And so I think I could invisibly like whip stitch those together and have one piece that covers that whole yoke. I would take those stitches out of that top edge that I just sewed 2 seconds ago so that I could tuck the fuzzy bit in and then resew that. And then I have, this is what I cut off of this piece. I could put this along this shoulder edge of the yoke to kind of clean up that edge. The colors are just really great. And the fuzz is just unexpected and fun. And you know what? That's what we're here for. Let's do it. Okay, I'm cutting this in half. And there's just barely enough. And I'm going to snip my way along there, trying not to cut too much of the fuzz. Yeah, I can see where I'm going. Okay, so I want the direction of this going the same way. There's a nap, right? This lays smooth. This is funny. So it's got to go this way. So these are the 2 edges. I'm just going to take black thread and whip stitch that together. And I think that seam will get hidden nicely. So to stitch these edges together, and then there's a finished edge here on these pieces. So I'm just going to catch the finished edge on both sides. I'll just need to keep this needle and thread handy because when I cut this into the yoke shape, my stitches are going to come out. But I'd rather do it this way than on the machine just because I think that this seam is just going to completely disappear. So I'll head all the way down to the end like that, and then it can lay flat, you see? And then the seam will be invisible. But tucking in the fuzz means there's more fuzz on the outside to cover the seam. And then once I'm done, look, that's amazing, isn't it? I mean, you can kind of see something going on there, but it's pretty darn invisible. And then I opened up the top of this, even though I just sewed it. And now I think that the nap is going this way, like the direction of the fuzz is this way. So I think I do need to trim off a little bit of that black so that I can tuck those edges in. Would it have been easier to sew this on before this little strip? Why, yes, it would have been. What a marvelous idea that would have been. I know that at least half of you watching are thinking that I've lost it now because I know this looks a bit crazy. I do understand. Okay, that is the top of my seam. I want to mark that.
And then with my needle and thread, I'm just going to kind of reinforce that area because I'm going to trim there right now. Oh, I'm nowhere near the seam. That's how hard it is to see that seam. I was like a good ½ inch away from it there. Okay, here we go. That should do. Now, scary stuff here. I guess what I'm going to do is try to draw a line along that neckline. And I'm very glad to have the glass head pins because a regular metal head of the pin would just get lost in the fuzz here. So I'm putting these pins perpendicular so that that head of the pin is sticking out so I can see it. Tucking that raw edge under. Okay, so far so good. Trim a little corner here. So it's just now a matter of trimming, folding under the edge, and pinning it down. And I'm kind of working from the center out toward the edge. I don't want to work from one side to the other because that would probably not work out. Once I get to the other side, I probably would be too skimpy. Oh, I was going to put that other strip along here, right? Oh, that actually makes it easy. I don't have to turn this edge under. I can let that lay flat. So I'm going to just trim a little closer, just kind of peeking under. This is working. That is good. That is very good. Phew. Okay. I know it's crazy, but I love it. So where I'm sewing along this ribbon, essentially, I'm going to use a straight stitch. Everywhere else, I think I will use a zigzag just so I can get more coverage. Now here, see, this is going to be my problem. That edge is going to want to come out. So I'm going to be struggling a little bit as I go here. Okay, I'm going to switch to zigzag. And I'm at 3.5 millimeters wide and 3 long. I'll just see what that looks like. Hopefully it disappears into the fuzz. More or less, I think I'll be able to kind of brush the fuzz from, out and around it. Okay, so now on this edge, I'm more or less going to try to run the edge of my presser foot along the edge of the yoke and then trim away the extra. That's around the back of the neck and now onto the other side of the yoke. Good. So now I just want to trim as much of this back as possible. When I tried it on, it did look funny if you could see this line of fuzz from the front. So I think that having this on top of that front edge will make it look a little less cuckoo. Alrighty, so I do want to trim this back and just have it like neatly zigzagged into place, kind of as flat as possible there. Basically giving it a haircut along that whole edge. And unfortunately, it's a really hot day here today. And so I'm dealing with all this fuzz. Oh, even that helps a little bit. Oof, my goodness, my cutting table is starting to look like roadkill. These little strips now. So on the back, I just used that. I'm just wondering if I can go a little wider. Oh, I think I could. A little wider, just so I have like a flat area right on top of my shoulder. So again, I'm just kind of finger pressing this. It sort of is volunteering to just fold flat there. So I'll have this edge just come a little forward, trying to get good looking corners. I think that'll be good. I'll try it on, and if it's good, I'll do both sides like that. It's pinned, and I tried it on, and it's good. I like it a lot, but it actually made me think that the front yoke here needs something as well. And so I'm going to leave this edge free for now. I'll sew those 3 sides, and then I'll show you what I'm wondering about for here. We'll see. These
front yokes. I still have this cottony dress and the colors are pretty good, but I kind of like the sweatery feel. So I've got this piece, right? Which I know is more like those colors instead of these colors. When I look at it through the camera, it doesn't look that great. Okay, we'll come back to that. Oh, Lordy. There's also this, but I mean, that's not the most exciting piece. Okay, we shall come back. Let's think about the sleeves for a second. So this is what I have left of the butterfly sweater. This is the whole back of the sweater that's untouched, and there's little bits of the front. There's a seam here. So if I fold this in half, then that is all I have for 2 sleeves. That is basically 1 sleeve each, if you get what I'm saying. It's going to be the lower part of the sleeve, which, you know, presents a couple problems because there's a pleat in the sleeve. There's the slit in the sleeve. So I got to figure out how to work around those, but it doesn't sound like a deal breaker. Basically, I'm going to cut the sweater off right at the underarm and then cut it in 2, and that's what I've got. I'm cutting off the black band, so that means it's still intact. I can still save it, but I'm losing a 1/4 inch off the sweater. No big deal. Okay, I just got smarter. So I folded this fabric in half, like bringing those raw edges together, and laid the sleeve against it with the slit edge on that edge. And then I just saw how far down can I take this, right, for it to fit. So that makes more sense. So I just barely have seam allowance there. If I sew this, that will be right to the top of the slit. And then I'll cut, oh, maybe I'll come down a little bit more there. I'll cut about there. So that makes more sense. And then the good news with that is that it leaves me the bottom parts of these sleeve pieces, which maybe that works on the front yokes. So this might just be good. Good, so I'll sew both of those top edges. I'm just going to use a straight stitch here, even though it's a knit. Because there's not much stretch in the vertical anyway. So I had to take a break to recharge my camera. And so while I was on that little break, I got that piece into the front yoke. I think that looks really great. And I just need some kind of trim here. I've unpicked some of just the plain gold. I think that'll do just fine. I don't think I need to take any more out of that table runner. So that's going to go there. And then I also sewed on the sweater part to the sleeve, and that's looking pretty good. And again, I just need trim here. It's not super easy to sew around the sleeve like that, but I'll show you how I did it. It was a little bit of a struggle. And then on the pockets, I think I am going to do just a little of that on just the pocket flap. I might just leave this pocket plain. So the end is in sight. Let me show you the front yokes and the sleeve. I did try to give a little haircut to all this fuzz underneath that piece just to reduce the puffiness of it, but I think it turned out okay. Okay, so to do this front yoke, I've got just the last little bit of the sweater, and I'm trying to place it so that I get the most breaking up of the color, but I don't want to be skimpy anywhere. It really gets tricky if you don't have enough seam allowance. So I like the look of that line. I'd like to use it, but I don't want to be skimpy. So with this sort of placed over that front yoke, so now I'm just going to mark, like I can feel this line, right? So I'm marking there. That's not where I'm going to cut though. I'm going to cut outside that line. And then around the neck, it helps to peek under so I know I'm feeling the right thing. That'll do. So then I'm just cutting seam allowance width away from that line. That'll probably do. So there's a seam right here. That should be okay right along that seam if I fold it right like that. This top edge is going to tuck under. I don't need to fold up this bottom corner because I'm just going to leave it flat, right? I'm just leaving the raw edge and I'll cover that with the piece of gold trim. This edge goes under. And I didn't interface these pieces because it is a lot smaller. It's quite a bit easier to manage than that big piece on the back. I just need to make sure I'm not stretching it too much around here. Now, right around this curve, if I feel like I need to, I can kind of fold it back just so I see exactly where it's going to meet that curve. And I can do a little bit of snipping in. I do want to be careful that I don't snip too far. But that snipping does help it make a nice curve around that neckline. Alrighty, so I'll sew all the way around that. And then at the machine, I'll also sew on the other sleeve piece. I sewed the sleeve pieces right side together up until the level of the slit. And then that can flip right side out. And I'm just going to put it right over the sleeve. I really like how this ended up. If I just turn under that edge and the bottom edge and bring that corner right down into the corner here. And then that line can just follow the edge of that top stitch around the slit. And then kind of the same thing here. Fold under and right to that corner. Because I like the look of showing the original olive green there. I think that just looks great. So this bottom edge isn't tricky to sew. It's just that top edge. All right, here's where the pleat is. But I think I have enough fullness here that I need to do probably 2 pleats. That's what I did on the other sleeve, so I'll try to duplicate it here. So I'm just taking that extra. Everywhere else I pin first, just even Steven. And I'm taking that extra. I like the fold to go toward that slit, just like the original. And then another little pleat going the same way, just with whatever fullness is left. Just like that. Awesome. So that bottom edge, that's not going to be a problem. It's this top edge that's a little more challenging. I don't have to fold under the edge, which is a nice thing because that's going to get the gold trim. So this was just fortunate, right? That this is the back of the sweater, that's the front. And so this is the side seam, and I was just able to make it land exactly in line with the seam of the sleeve. So that was just a little bit of serendipity. Alrighty, let's go. So here's the bottom edge. I think I'm going to start right at that corner. And I've switched to a dark red thread. So it's just a matter of keeping everything out of your way. Okay, and then just across the bottom edge, right across these pleats. You can use a pin to just make sure it's laying flat under the presser foot. So that's pretty nice, hey? The pleats will sit nicely. I'm quite happy with that. The little slit I just think looks dynamite. So now this bit of business, the top edge of that sleeve piece. I tried using the free arm, but I just couldn't get that whole sleeve on there. It just did not work. So that's not helpful. So instead, I take that sleeve and turn it inside out. So that's my sleeve inside out there, and then going down that rabbit hole. So I got to get the jacket under, and this is probably the biggest wrestling match of the whole project. And because I'll be wrestling so much, really I would have been smart to do that yoke first. Oh well, that's okay. So I'm going down the rabbit hole of the sleeve until I find that top edge. And I'm starting anywhere, like really I don't care. And I'm just gonna go around. So when I put the gold trim on here, I at least have to baste it on by hand around the sleeve. And then maybe then I can get in with the machine and sew the gold on. Or I might end up just sewing the gold on like with a permanent stitch by hand. Because you can, like, trying to deal with that trim and getting it straight and looking good like this in this little nest here, nah, that's not going to be fun. I know I'm really not having a good time at the moment. Just a little too wrestly. Yeah, I could have done this step by hand too. I think that would have been easier. This is no fun. But there we are, back to where I started. So, not highly recommended. Maybe if you're not really determined, then just skip the sleeves. Don't do that part. The rest was a lot more fun than that. Alrighty, this yoke now. You could definitely just do something to the cuffs,
That would be a bajillion times easier than what I just did. So this is the top edge of that front yoke. And again, look, it's just a little much to get through here, but it's going okay. Yipes. Now, when I come across the bottom edge of the yoke, I just want to line up the edge of my presser foot with, or I can feel the edge of that yoke, right? Because I can trim off any extra. I don't want it to be sticking out below the gold trim. So I can feel that edge right here, like with my fingernails, and then I'm guiding that edge of the presser foot right along that line. And then there's one more thing, just because this looks so puffy. So what I did on the other side is I just sewed one line right down the middle, almost like quilting it in a way, and that flattened it out quite nicely. Yeah, you see what I mean? I like that look of that double. It looks like two channels. I like that. All right, gold trim, here we go. So I'm loving this. The gold trim there works. I'll show you how I'm doing that. So I just want to trim off the extra of the sweater piece. So I'm trimming quite close to my sewing line. And then I just want to get a good fold on the end, but there's so much stuff coming off of these. So once I fold it, I've been trimming off the corners just to make sure they don't stick out. But I don't want to trim too close to my fold because then it will stick out. So again, I'm just like following the bottom edge of the yoke. No problem. This is an easy part. Okay, so that's going to be good. The gold trim on the sleeves, I'm definitely going to do by hand. The pockets I was looking at, and I played around with that, and I just don't like it at all. I think it just makes it look Christmassy somehow, and it's too bulky. I just didn't like it at all. So that's going. And then I took another look at this whole bunch that I have, and I think what I don't love is the blue and the green. But when I just do this and wrap that over, I think that's what it needs, right? It's sort of keeping in the right colors. I think that is really nice. So, okay. And then I think that that's it. I think that's all I'm going to do to this jacket, which is probably enough, but this is where I'm drawing the line. So if I'm doing a little wrappy bit like that, well, I definitely need to wrap the ends nice. And again, it's those corners that are kind of like a make it or break it, right? I don't want the corners to look funny with little bits sticking out. I want to pin it in such a way that I am definitely catching the back here. Let's try it this way. Wrap it around and then up. And then all those funny corners are on the inside. That's better. Yes. Oh, definitely. Okay. So do you see the difference? Instead of that fold being on the front, I'll bring it onto the back. That's way better. So just a little bit more machine sewing, and then it's the hand sewing of the gold around the sleeves. Oh, I really like that. Don't you think so? I've got red thread in the machine, so I'll do these first, and then I think I'll switch back to the gold to do that. Okay, that's nice. I think this established 1993 is going to stay as is. I could underline it with gold. Oh, maybe. Oh, maybe. Okay. Like it. Oh, I hope you do too. I hope nobody thinks I'm too crazy, especially for this bath mat across the shoulders. It's fun. I love it. This should be fairly straightforward. Absolutely, right? It feels nice too. It feels like it's meant to be, and it just caught it nicely on the back. Good one. Love, love, love. I'm going to do that little tag for next. And then see that little corner sticking out? That's exactly what I do not like. Push that in. Okay. I'm doing the bottom edge first because it's the more critical one. I don't want to nail this down and then find that the edge is showing or anything. Okay,
I'm loving that. Last little bit of gold trim, and then the rest is by hand. Yay! I'll start at the plain seam of the sleeve. This one is the one that's more visible, the top stitched one where the slit is. And I'm going to have lots of little threads to trim because this gold trim just is like sort of exploding little threads. So I want to pin that around in a way that looks relatively even. I might see if I can fix that little pucker as I go around with my needle and thread. Here I started a little bit before the seam so that here I can cut a little past and do my fold so that it lines up at the seam. Okay, whew. So it looks kind of terrible at the moment with all those threads. I will trim them up as I go. I think I'll work with just a single thread. I'm just going to do a little bit of this here with you just so you get a sense of how annoying this might or might not be. And then I'll go to the table. So I can use my needle to sort of push in little bits and then just a little, oh my goodness, yes, annoying. Just little stitches like that. Yeah, I think maybe a glass of wine would be nice with this. So yes, you've already surmised that I have to go around this top edge and then around the bottom edge with just little small neat stitches. A good match to the thread helps a lot. And then see this white backing, wherever it shows, it bothers me. So I've been just like trimming off the edge. Okay. So that is the idea. All right, I'll finish this handwork on both sides of that ribbon. I'll trim my little threads. I'll vacuum. And then I will show you the finished product. I really hope you like it.
Okay, I finished that handwork last night and then I wore this to work today. It was so much fun to wear. I absolutely love it. It's really such a creative self-expression. That's how I felt in it all day. And I got some really nice comments from my students on it. So that's always nice. The pieces that I didn't end up using, I'll just donate right back to the thrift store. And even that table runner, I feel a bit bad because I kind of destroyed it for just that much. So what I'll do is I'll just shorten it or turn it into 2 placemats. I'll do something and then just donate it right back. So this kind of project really is a labor of love. It's a chance for you to just kind of let your personality shine through, let your creativity take over, and it really is a pleasure to do something like this. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because it's great to have you on board. And until next time on Catherine Sews, you take care. I'll definitely take this jacket with me on a tour of sustainable fashion in Italy so that I can be the lady on the train. And if you want to join me on that trip, just click the link in the description. See you next time.